This is Jeff Gorey, the Principal Investigator for the Transformer Toolkit project. Today we're going to do a quick tutorial on adding electric vehicles to the lookup table. So let's dive right into it. Basically, so the scenario where you would need this information is, let's say you're on the maximum EV load tab of this tool, and you're looking to find out what the maximum EV load would be for a certain electric vehicle. And let's say, for example, it is the Freightliner EM2. Well, right here in the vehicle selection tab, we've got the color-coded input field here. Right now, what's selected is the 2023 Audi Q5 TFSIe. Let's say we're looking for that Freightliner EM2. So right now, this table is sorted by manufacturer. And so let's scroll down to where Freightliner should be. It should be alphabetically right after Ford, but there's nothing there. And so because this tool is meant to be open source, at this point you have the opportunity to find the specs on this vehicle and add it yourself. And so in order to do that, the data that's being populated here, it comes from the Lookup tab. And more specifically, it's this first table in the Lookup tab. It is the electric vehicle table. And so if I were to just, press this macro button here, zoom to EV table, it's just going to zoom in so I can see this in the most optimal way. But let's make sure it's sorted by make, which it is. And then I'm going to scroll down to where Freightliner should be right after Ford. I see that it is not there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of the columns in this table, and I'm going to press Control+, which will add a row, and then I'm going to start to enter in the information for this vehicle. I know that it's an electric vehicle. It is made by Freightliner, F-R-E-I-G-H-T Liner, and it is called the EM2E, I believe, or I believe it's spelled like this, EM2. And so one of the things that's going to happen right away is that this column YMM, which if you never know what an acronym stands for here, a lot of times they're in the comments, so if you hover over, it'll tell you. YMM is just an acronym for year, make, model. It's concatenating these three prior rows, the year, make, and model. And so what I'm going to do is I'm basically just going to pull up an internet browser and search for this online. And so I could type all that out, or I've already typed it out once. I might as well just copy it from here. So I'm going to say, I'm going to Control V, and it's going to copy it, formatted, combining those three of those four previous columns there. And I'm going to say spec sheet. And hopefully this is going to take us to a manufacturer. Okay, here we go. So here's the Freightliner website. There's a number of information that I need to get here. It's basically 11 different pieces of information. I'm not going to read them all, but you can see them right here. I'm hoping that I can find most of this information on the manufacturer's website. We also may have to do some Googling, or also the use of some AI search tools. But let's get into it. One thing is apparent right away, that this is a class 6 or 7 vehicle. So already I'm kind of struck with a conundrum. Do I want to enter in two things here? Do I want to enter in for the class 6 and class 7, or just do the class 7? In all honesty, I could do either or, but for now, let's just focus on what would be not necessarily the worst case scenario, but would have the highest impact on the grid, so the class 7. The class 7 is going to have a bigger battery, assumably charge faster, maybe be more load on the grid. So let's focus on the class 7 right now. Class 7, and let's say I didn't know that it was a class 7, but I see this picture of a big truck here. It's kind of like a city box truck. Well, there is a reference tab in here called EV classes that'll kind of walk you through some of the information here. This one right here, between class 6 and 7, it's probably getting put into class 7 because of the weight of it, right? And so we've got some columns here, the minimum weight and the maximum weight, which is the main way they classify these classes in North America. So let's go ahead and go back to our lookup table. We're going to say class 7, and we're going to say large box truck. So there's some other information, fuel economy here. If it doesn't give you MPGE, there is a formula, right? And so I can pull this down and it'll calculate once I get some other information. If for some reason you also were to erase that formula and not be able to get it back, if you jump into the comment here, that formula is also listed at the bottom of the comment. It looks kind of strange right now because it's getting cut off by the frozen cells, but there you go. So just to show that that works, I'm going to Control Z there, or Control C there, and go to Freightliner. Let's see. So here's another point I want to make. You're noticing I kind of got lost in this very big lookup table. When I'm editing one of these lines, what I like to do is I'll select the whole thing. I'll press this highlight macro up here, make it yellow so it stands out and I can find it quick once I come back. So we copied that formula from the comment earlier. I'm just going to add it in there just to show that it does work. And hopefully that is going to calculate once we find some more information. So let's start looking for some information. We've already committed for this example. We're going to treat this as just the Class 7 model. And so there's some information that we can find here that I think is going to help us. So propulsion. This also, if I don't get propulsion specifically, I'll do the motor type, but I see that I've got some information here. I can populate this propulsion column, so I'm going to throw that right in there. Let's see what else we can get from here. Some charging information. So a lot of times the manufacturers are not going to give you the greatest specs. They may not even explicitly give you what your charging rate is here, or what your charge speed is, so how many miles you can charge per hour. So there is a calculator built into this tool to help us calculate that. Before we get to that though, let's get our battery size here. So the Class 7 is going to be 291 kilowatt hour capacity for our battery, so we're going to throw that in there. And you'll see this formula now is getting one of the two things that it wants. It also wants a all-electric range to be able to calculate fuel economy. So let's see if we can't get a range here. Let's do Control F, range, typical range, 180 or 250 miles. We're going to assume the 250 is for the larger battery Class 7. So we're going to go back here. We're going to enter in our range, 250 miles. And now you'll notice the MPGE has been calculated automatically because we put that formula into there. So we've already got a few different variables that are good to go. So let's just keep looking here. So charging, it's not telling us kW, but it's telling us a percentage in a certain amount of minutes. In a worst case scenario, we can, or when we're hurting for more data, we can use that info to calculate what the charging rate would be in kW, but let's see if we can't find the spec sheet in here. There's some resources lifted down here. Let's just expand this all the way out and Control F spec. Oh, make sure we're searching in our browser. All right, EM2 spec sheet. That looks like it's going to give me some more detailed information. So what have we got here? It's a lot of information. I'm just going to go ahead and Control F and do kW space. So charging power up to 180 kW. Because level 3 is the highest level of charging, and typically these manufacturers want to boast their quickest charging amount, it's very likely that that is the level 3 kW. So we're going to enter that here under this column, and then we're going to make that go back to its normal color so we know we've entered that information. Let's see. Now I'm trying to find a level 2 charging rate. It's not really apparent so far. Not really seeing any level 2 stuff, so I'm going to do a Control F. And again, make sure you're Control F-ing in your browser. We're going to look for level 2. Nope. LVL2. Nope. So I don't see that information here. We're going to move on for now. Let's see if there's anything else we can get from here. We also need our charging speeds. Well, we see charging CCS1, which refers to level 3 charging, but if you didn't know that, just search it. Control V, what is the meaning of CCS1? It's a combined charging system type 1, has to do with combines AC and DC capabilities into a single connector. So this is very likely referring to our level 3 charging. So at this point, we're kind of stuck. We don't have all the information that we need. One thing we can do is, because we have they've told us here in kind of not very certain terms, but they've told us how long it would take to charge something to a certain percentage. We're going to Control F for percentage again. Yeah, they've told us it can recharge 80% in around 60 minutes. So that's a pretty fast charge. We're going to assume that's their level 3 charging. What we can do here now is we do have enough information to calculate the level 3 charge distance rate and how many miles you can charge per hour. So I'm going to go to the Calcs and Conversions tab. It's right down here. And there is a charging rate calculator. And I see what it needs is the overall battery capacity, the recharge percentage, and then the recharge time. So this is an interesting one here. This will give us kW. There's actually a calculator right above it that's going to give us miles per hour, our charging speed. So let's enter our information here. Another thing is I could search back through all this to try to find that info, or I could use Microsoft Excel has a great hotkey called Alt-WN that brings up a new window of the same instance of Excel. I remember that by Alt-WN, Alt-Window New to bring up a new window. So I'm going to go back to the Lookup tab. Again, I'm kind of like lost in this lookup, but because I highlighted it earlier, I should be able to find it easily, which I did. So let's go ahead and enter some information here. We need the battery capacity. We had that previously as 291. And let's go ahead and freeze our cells up here. Freeze panes so that we get that nice top row to stick. So the battery capacity, again, 291 kWh, 291. The max range on this guy is 250 miles, we see here. So let's enter that in, 250 miles. And so what's happening now is this, this tool is taking this information and just kind of copying and pasting it over here for the same numbers for level 1, 2, and 3. We know that the max charge rate of level 1 is 1.9 kW, so just for estimating purposes to fill out the information on this tool, we already have one data point, which is our level 1 charge speed is going to be 1.632 miles per hour. 1.632, we're going to go ahead and enter that, mark that as good. And then now, we don't necessarily have enough information for level 2 yet because we don't know what our level 2 max charge rate is. It's not always 19.2, but we do have enough information for level 3. So the battery capacity doesn't change when you're level 2 charging, neither does the max range. The max charging rate does, though. So do we have max charging rate? We do. It is 180 kW. The thing is, though, as these electric vehicle batteries charge, it's not like it's always charging at that rate from 0 to 100%. And so a better way to get a more accurate number here is actually to use those numbers when the company says, oh, we can charge up to X% over this amount of time. We can use that information to populate our data over here. So let's search for percent. So this is our level 3 charging again, the CCS1 at 400 amps, 0 to 80%. We're going to drop down here and use a different calculator. So it's the same battery capacity, 291 kWh. In terms of the recharge percent, they're saying it's 80%. And that time in minutes, so let's see if they give it to us in minutes or hours. they give it to us as 90 minutes for the highest level 3 charging for 0 to 80%. So we're going to do 90 minutes here. This is going to give us the average KW over that time. And so let's see here. We've got our, it's basically just given us a KW. You'll notice, so this is an important distinction. That KW we just calculated is less than what they said their max KW is. Well, in this part of the tool, we want to know what that max KW is, not necessarily the average KW as it charges from 1% to another, because we're more concerned in this part of the tool with what the max load on the grid is going to be. So that 180 number is correct. This is also correct as a average KW while it charges. But the whole reason we found this number here is basically so that we can take this number, the average KW, as it goes from 0 to 80%, and plug it in here to get a representative number for average charge speed, the average miles that we can add to this as we charge. So I'm basically going to copy this average charge speed and put it over here as a plain number. And this gives me my level 3 charge speed miles per hour. So we're going to add that here, 133.33, and we're going to mark that one as done. So at this point now, we're basically looking for charging rate level 2, and in terms of the kilowatts, that would be the max charging rate in kilowatts, and then the average speed, the average amount of miles that we can add over the course of 1 hour at level 2 charging. We've looked all through the spec sheet. We can't find what it says for level 2 charging. A lot of these fleet vehicles, this is a common situation where you won't be able to find in the specs or really explicitly on the website what the level 2 charging rate is, because for these types of vehicles, it's more assumed that they're going to be charging as a level 3 most of the time. That said, though, we can still do our due diligence and just keep looking. Again, we're going to go back to the lookup table here so that we can do a quick copy and paste of this YMM and not have to write it out every time that we search for something. But let's do Control A, Control V, and then we're going to do max level 2 charging speed. And so basically one thing we've got here is the AI overview is telling us that it can do 19.2 kW. I'm a little bit skeptical of that because that is basically just the, if we go back to our calculus and conversions table, we'll see that's basically just the spec max load, max charging rate for level 2 charging. And so I'm just going to interrogate this a little bit, follow this link that this is supposedly sourced from, and just make sure that that does line up with what we're seeing. So the site that this took me to, it's actually good. This is a good site, the Alternative Fuels Data Center. A lot of the vehicles that are in this tool are sourced from the Alternative Fuels Data Center. And so this is good. It's the 2025 year is selected. I want to make sure I've got 2024 selected because that's where we pulled all this other data from. Basically, this is just a huge list of everything that meets the criteria of electric in model year 2024 from the Alternative Fuels Data Center, or AFDC. What I'm going to do now is Control F on this site, search EM2. Hopefully it pulls something up, and it looks like it has. So, Class 7, yeah, it's not giving me the data that I need, so we're just going to go back here. See if this was sourced from somewhere else. Electric Freightliner trucks. Let's see, level 2. So I'm not finding it again there. Let's see if there's anything else here. And so in this case, you basically have the option, because I'm not finding what I need. You have the option here to either put a dash, and the tool will interpret that as, not having the data that we need. Or you could also make the assumption that this is a fleet vehicle. Uh, this is a fleet vehicle, and basically it's going to max out at the rated max load. So what we'll do is we'll make this 19.2, and then we'll go back over to our calculator here to find what we're looking for. Let's do 19.2.2. And again, this is the same battery capacity and max range that we used before, but our max charge rate is 19.2. That gives us a charge speed of 16.495. So let's go 16.495. And now basically we have all of the data that we need except for an MSRP. MSRPs are also tricky to find from the manufacturer's website. So one thing I like to do is just, again, go to the lookup. I'm going to copy and paste. I'm going to first look for the yellow row so that I can find. Okay, here we go. I'm going to copy and paste from the YMM column. I'm going to say MSRP, see what we get. So here's a pretty good number. I believe that that's in accordance with pretty much everything else there. So I'm going to go ahead and enter that in. It's 87,100. Again, the tool isn't really using that number for any hardcore calculations. It's really just for the information of it. So we've entered in all of our data now. One thing that I like to do is I like to just sort again by make, just to make sure that it's good to go in there. And so now we can go back into our original panel restrictions tool. Let's see if we can find this thing. Knowing now that if we were to sort by like year in the EV lookup table, everything would be sorted by 2023, but we should see that it's grouped via the manufacturer alphabetically. And so we've got Freightliner EM2. We're going to select that. And then everything is basically auto-populated from that lookup table. And so just to make sure that that's correct, let's just see what this thing is pulling here. Let's say it's an 80 amp panel, 240 volts. Overnight charging hours is 12 hours. Its max level 2 charging speed, 19.2, that's correct. The fuel economy, 32.39, that is correct. Obviously, this one here is just, all the numbers here are, rounded up. But and then vehicle battery capacity, 291. Yep, that is correct as well. And so basically, this tool is pulling this information from here. These are inputs that are formatted as the current input color, see? And then these purple items, they're formatted as lookup values. So basically that just means that it's being pulled from another part of the tool. And then everything that's green here, you'll see in the cell styles, is formatted as a calculation. And so we've successfully added this new electric vehicle into our lookup tab. And now it's ready to use all throughout the rest of the tool. So this has been a quick tutorial. Thanks again for watching. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to reach out at the contact information below. Thanks. Have a great day.